On Sunday, Elon Musk gave a 1-hour interview at the X Takeover event with the Tesla owners of Silicon Valley team, John Stringer and Kelvin G. Today, we'll watch 3 clips where Elon talks about Tesla's products and business. There is actually some new information he shared that is quite important. First, he said that there's going to be a wide variation on how the Tesla bot can look, with some third parties that could do cool things like wraps. Farrell, for example, wanted to make his own version. In a second clip, Elon talks about Tesla as an AI robotics company. He shares more about what to expect in the new Tesla bot design. And finally, he says Tesla's full self-driving will be ultra profound. And along with humanoid bots, will be something when we look back in history 50 years from now, 100 years from now, these were the big ones that really changed the world. Jeff Lutz joining us. He's an ex-CVP of Supply Chain and Chief Quality Officer. He's now CEO of his own supply chain consulting firm. Thank you so much, Jeff.
Yeah, great to be with you, Herbert. That was an exciting interview.
Yeah, so we were both there at the X Takeover event, and then the last minute, Elon Musk showed up, virtually, but he gave us a whole hour of his interview, and I felt like he actually did end up sharing a lot of information that we hadn't heard about, a little bit more color. Here's him talking about Optimus. Let's watch that first.
Initially we're starting like production design one of Optimus, which we'll do some basic stuff in the Tesla factories next year, because we want to iron out a lot of details. It's just to make sure it's useful. And for the first year or so, it's going to require quite a lot of babysitting from engineering, and then hopefully when we get to 2026, that'll be when we could sort of sell it outside of the company, because be confident that it'll work reasonably well and respond to voice commands and that kind of thing. So, and then you'll be able to sort of, I think, customize how the robot looks as well, long term, because you can kind of shell or skin the robot however you like. So I think there'll be wide variations in how the robot looks, how the robot looks, and maybe like some third parties could do cool things, just like there's like cool third party wraps of the Cybertruck. That's some really creative art, I think. So the Cybertruck's like, even though it ships as kind of like bare stainless steel, it ends up having some of the most interesting art in terms of how it's wrapped. And so it's really quite unique. And actually, I was talking to Farrell. He was obviously very creative, and I think he has some ideas for doing a Farrell version of an Optimus, for example, which would be pretty cool to have like different artists come up with different versions of Optimus.
That's got Farrell. What an interesting creativity, not just that, but what do you think about this idea? Obviously, you have a lot of experience manufacturing products, rolling them out, but this is, opening it up to the consumers to make it their own.
Yeah, this has been well studied, and there's a lot of data, and a lot of people talk about humanoid robots. While there's going to be this tremendous complication in terms of actuator development, supply chain, of course, the real world AI and generative AI components of it, like there's a tremendous amount of complexity there, that these things are going to be, like, from a hardware perspective, again, outside of the actuators, scaled up as, from the smartphone, tablet, they're the closest like cousin or to like a smartphone tablet supply chain. And we've studied this a lot over decades, and just some numbers and stats for people. And I've seen these at various points in time and experienced this. About greater than 70% of people that buy a smartphone or tablet, they wrap a case around it to customize that product. Yeah. So we spend all this time thinking about how this thing is going to look. What is it going to look like as soon as it comes out of the box? And then how many colors should we offer to consumers? But then the other thing you keep in mind is that if 70% of people are going to wrap their own kind of expression around the product, what do you have to consider that when you're developing the product. So what you want to do is you want to develop a product that can kind of be a canvas for people that want to express themselves. This isn't like 5% of people or 10% of people put some sort of wrap or case around it. This is greater than 70%. And what Elon is saying is, I think outside of the industrial, framework of these humanoid bots, that people are going to want to personalize them. So create a product. When you think of the materials, you think of the design of it, create something that people can put their own expression around. So that's going to happen. I think that's pretty exciting. And it's going to be quite a transformative experience just, a couple of years from now. We talked about version 1 of the robot. So at some point in time here, over the next couple of months, they're going to do something. They're going to snap a line internally, and they're going to say, this is the version 1 bill of material for call it this version 1 robot that we're going to build. I would say probably a couple of thousand. When they commit to doing something like 1,000 or so in the factory, that's the external number I believe they're showing. I believe that they would probably be building more than that, internally. Again, that's an outrageously much higher number, but basically this is going to be a small production build. It's going to exercise the entire production process, from ordering from suppliers, from them maintaining their dimensions, to all the way through the supply chain and building out their production line. This will be they should be off of a production line number 1, and maybe it's some lower rate line in terms of speed, but it'll be representative of a production line. So that's version 1 of the robot in the factory doing useful tasks. And he said babysitting by engineers. I believe that these things are going to be, they're going to have sensors on steroids. They're going to be getting all kinds of information that may eat into some of the efficiency of the bot and so forth, but it's going to be helpful to engineering, so that in the background, as they're figuring out how to release the version 2 and maybe the higher volume production version of the bot, it will inform them on what to do for that production release of that bot. And it doesn't end there. Tesla, like with their vehicles, where they're constantly every couple of weeks iterating, doing minor changes, they'll do the same thing with the bot. It'll continue to evolve.
Thank you. I wanted to ask you this question, so you kind of touched on it, which is, so we're already in the 3rd revision of the bot. They're going to call it version 1 by the end of this year, and that's the one that they're going to manufacture. So you kind of confirmed with me, like, a couple thousand, yes, but you've done this. You may not, you may actually do more than 2,000 internal use, but they're giving the external number of 2,000. That's interesting. The second bit, what I found interesting in what he said was that obviously you're the expert in manufacturing of hardware devices. That's what this is. But the reason why he said that it's still going to be 2026 when they go mass and they're going to sell to other customers, is that's because you want to be able to communicate with it. You want to be able to tell it what to do. You know what I mean? It's not just the hardware, it's also the brains. That to me said, okay, that's why they're waiting till the following year. They really want to hone that down. Have you ever have experience with that, where it's both the brains, and of course, hardware and software?
Yeah.
So
yeah, there's multiple development tracks. Think of them as trains that have left the station on the humanoid bot. And some are going to arrive at various stops along the way that give them levels of maturity and capability. And some of those trains have an endpoint that's much further into the future. This kind of this generative AI approach where this thing you can talk and communicate back and forth. That train's probably going to take longer. The train that's going to allow it to do like pretty remedial tasks in the factory, that train that stop is coming up sooner than that one. So when you have these 10 trains going at the same time, and some of them are at different stops and different maturity, what you do is at some point you snap a line and say, we're going to call this version 1. So that's what they're doing. They're snapping a line. They're saying, this is version 1. This is what's going to be able to do from an AI perspective. This is the software that's going to be in it, and so forth. And then some things are just upgradable over time. And so the software and the version, I anticipate that these version 1 robots can be fully upgradable, into the future. Maybe not for decades, but for a couple of years, depending, unless they make a major change going into version 2. But yeah, think of version 1 and think of this development as multiple trains going at the same time. Some of them have longer stops and more frequent stops along the way. At some point, they snap a line, they call it version 1. Yeah. They put in the Tesla factories, and then they learn more.
The other thing that is one of your trains is the chip. And I think they've said AI5, which is hardware 5. So hardware 4 is in all the cars right now. And all of our cars, they keep getting upgraded software-wise. But AI5, that's the one that's going to be really much, more likely to be important. for the
version
bots.
1 will have hardware 4. Yeah.
Right. And so once they get hardware 5, which is in line with, next year or second half of 2025. Anyways, great. Thank you for explaining all that. So now the next section is him talking about Tesla as an AI robotics company. It is a 5-minute long. I may cut it in the middle if there's separation of topics. We'll watch it.
Right. Well, you can think of the Tesla cars as essentially robots on 4 wheels. So it's really profound, and I'd recommend just giving demonstrations of the self-driving capability to people, to friends and family and stuff, because if you take a Model Y, it's a good-looking car, but it doesn't look like it has. It looks like it's a good-looking electric car, but it doesn't look like it. I use the analogy. Let's say you had a cat, and it looks like a normal cat, but actually your cat can talk and jump up and do like a hat and cane dance and do like a musical. Are you actually like let's say you had a sentient cat that could talk and sing and dance, but people look at the cat on the couch and the cat just looks like a normal cat until it jumps up and does a song and dance, and it's like whoa, like, wow, what was that? So that's the thing with the self-driving is that, yeah, sure, the Model 3 Y, they're normal looking cars, except ours can basically sing and dance, and it's intelligent and can drive from one place to another. So it's just demonstrating that to people blows their mind. So I'd recommend doing that because that's really key. And then for the Optimus robot, that's really an extension of what we've learned with the car. So the car is a robot with 4 wheels, intelligent robot with 4 wheels, and Optimus is an intelligent robot with arms and legs. So in the case of Optimus, we had to design every part of the robot from scratch. All the motors and gears and electronics and sensors all had to be designed from scratch. And also we had to learn how to operate all of these motors and sensors. You really get to learn a lot about how the human body works, and you realize there's a reason why we evolved this way. There's a reason why the muscles that operate your hand are actually located in your forearm, because if you look at your sort of hand, it's sort of like it's like a puppet basically, and the puppet strings are in your forearm. And there are a small number of muscles that are actually in the hand, but most of the muscles that operate your hand are in your forearm. So with the current version of Optimus, we actually have the actuators in the hand, but with the new version that we're moving to later this year, the actuators are in the forearm, and really emulating how a human hand works. So, and there really are no motors, and there are no actuators. When I say actuator, an actuator would be like motor plus gearbox plus power electronics and sensors. There are no actuators that you can buy for really any amount of money that work well for a humanoid robot. So we actually go back to physics first principles and design all of the actuators from scratch. So it's a tremendous amount of work, and I think it'd be very difficult for any company that does not have that's not extremely good at designing actuators to make an effective humanoid robot. And then it'll have the same brain as the car. So initially hardware 4 and then hardware 5 in 26. And then just as the car is learning how to navigate reality, it's the same basic process for the humanoid robot. And I think basically everyone's going to want one. So it's like, who wouldn't want? So like, there's different ways to think of robots, but like let's say R2D2 and C3PO were real, and you could have them. Like, who would not want R2D2 C3PO? That would be awesome.
Yeah,
like a friendly buddy robot. Now we need to make sure they stay friendly, of course. That's very important.
I was hoping for a Garfield.
But I think it's kind of like people will get pretty attached to their humanoid robots, just like people, you get attached to C3PO and R2D2. I think everyone's going to pretty much want one. And I think long term, the cost of the humanoid robot should be less than the cost of a car because it weighs less. There's fewer parts in it. So ultimately, I think humanoid robot that is super useful, I think long term is probably like $20,000 or $25,000. But it depends on what a dollar's worth in future inflation and all. But current year dollars, I think I can see reaching a price of $20,000, $25,000 for a humanoid robot that would be really useful. That could help you take care of kids, walk the dog, go get groceries, like whatever works. So I think everyone's going to want one. So there's 8 billion people on Earth, and I think they're all going to want one. So that's why I think it's probably going to be the biggest thing ever.
It's not just going to want one. We're going to want many, because he just explained that it's not just going to be a humanoid. You're going to have the R2-D2s, and like we've been saying, there's going to be many different form factors. I'm going to probably have 4 in my one house. Like it's just the way you're going to buy these different utilities. But wow, that's why it was slowed down. They were so far ahead, and then they had to slow down to make the third revision, which they're calling version 1, because of the hands, right? Make all the muscles in the forearm. This is how advanced they are. This can be 22 degrees of freedom, but they changed it so that it's not actuator driven. It's these ligaments, these muscles. It's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, they're changing the design of the bot to something that they are probably going to be, what if you piece together what he's saying, what Elon is saying, they have changed it because of form and function needs. The design of the bot is changing to something that they exclusively may be only able to manufacture for some period of time in the future. That's, I think, an important takeaway, that this is not everybody's going to be able to do this. And from my checks, in supply chain, there isn't a bot supply chain. It's just a humanoid bot supply chain. It doesn't exist. So a lot of these things have to be created. And if you don't have the ability to create these things, you're going to be on the outside looking in, waiting for somebody else to create that capability in supply chain. Then you've got to go buy it. And then you don't have the competitive advantage. This has been the hallmark of Tesla as they've ramped up through EV. If they had to wait for the supply chain to develop versus going in and developing the supply chain themselves or building it internally, they would have never been where they're at today. So what Elon is saying to you is that recipe that they use, other people can't just copy that recipe. Like, you have to have the people, the capability, the leadership to be able to do that. And so what they're saying is they're going to be uniquely positioned to be able to do that.
Wow. Okay. Another one of those moments where finally got it.
Let me give you another one. I think Elon in that conversation is starting the dialogue. I know humanoid bots for people is further out than the industrial use and manufacturing. We've talked about that. But by tying the comparison to C3PO and R2D2, he is now exposing something that's inside of everybody. Billions of people have seen and understand the Star Wars story, and he is now relating these things to something that and you've trusted through your childhood. I think there's something there that may be happening in the background.
I want to go back to supply chain, because where my brain sort of start to understand things is that I think all of us, everybody understands that Tesla has a massive advantage against other companies in terms of their manufacturing capabilities. Everybody else has a partner. No one else has the skill to mass produce scaled level. But what you just pointed out was that there is no supply chain. Again, Elon has been saying this, so it's not something that is new. But if you carry this forward, Tesla will need to make their own products, their own supply chain for now, not just only actuators, which is, we thought, okay, simple. They make the brains, the chips, they make the batteries, but now they're even creating things like the muscles, the ligaments, the forearm. So if there is no supply chain out there, and you as the manufacturer for the spot need to create all these parts, it's like even that exponential difference in terms of how does another company scale when they have to find some way to build it or find a partner to build it, and they've never built, it's like this exponential thing.
Well, they may not know how to either. It's not just they have to go find somebody, hey, make me an actuator that looks like Tesla. They may be able to, at some point when Tesla's in production, to buy the Tesla bot, tear it down, and they may look at it and say, I don't know how to do this. And that could be step one of this. And by the way, that's what happened. We've talked about this on your show. That's what happened with the Model 3 and Y. The Model 3 and Y have been shipping for 7-8 years.
Yeah.
and you could tear them down to your blue in the face. You have to know what they did, and by the time you figured out what Tesla's doing, they're on to the next thing.
Interesting. All right, let's watch this next clip. It's a 3-minute long clip about Elon talking about the future, what's going to be happening.
Well, I think in terms of what will have the biggest impact in the world, it will be the kind of the robotaxi, dedicated robotaxi. Now, of course, all Tesla vehicles can operate it, or will be able to operate as a robotaxi. Pretty much all. So, but yeah, I think the dedicated robotaxi will have the single biggest effect in the world. The semi truck, I think, will have a very, very big effect. The Roadster is one of those things that's not like necessary from a utility standpoint, but is super cool. I guess a friend of mine, Peter Thiel, is like, he always says like, why don't we have flying cars? And I'm like, wait for it. It's coming. So I think it'll be super cool. Does it change the world? I don't know, but I think like sometimes you just gotta have things that are just cool, because it's just great to have awesome things in the world. So it's kind of cherry on the cake. I think the Roadster demo will be mind blowing. It might be the most mind blowing demo of anything ever.
Wow. So quick follow-up. When is that happening? I don't know if you could share that, but it's all good if you have to pass on that one.
I think next year. Next year sometime. And that's a joint sort of Tesla SpaceX effort. So it's kind of applying combining rocket engineering with Tesla EV engineering.
Alien technology.
To make something really special.
I heard it can fly a little.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, it'll be something special, and we'll continue to make new products that we haven't talked about at all. So there's new things that'll come out.
I think I have to pause it there. So, first of all, Roadster is probably going to float or hover. Maybe, I don't know. When he says fly, could it go worse? Now I get why he's doing it, because it's a, breaking the bounds of what, it's going to be mind-blowing demo next year. But then we are making new products we haven't talked about. What do you think?
Yeah, there's a lot there. On the Roadster, he's really trying to stress that an electric vehicle is a supercar, can be a supercar, and will do things and perform in a way that no other conventional vehicle can. So you always see these comparisons of ICE and EV and other standards. And what he's trying to do is like, there's this isn't going to blanket the earth in terms of volume, but it's going to show you that this category is capable of unbelievable performance. Now, these Tesla's working on things that others have seen. They should be. Everything that Tesla's working on should not be an open book, as we've seen in the past. When they kind of talk through things, and I got a little bit wound up this morning on this whole topic of like their method of production for the 25K vehicle, and kind of walking through that in Investor Day. I actually, in my opinion, I think it's okay for Tesla to kind of give like a very, very high level overview. But I would actually be clamping down a little bit more on this stuff. I think that's why you're not seeing the frequency of kind of AI and autonomy days is while you want to kind of show what you're doing and get people excited, and definitely from a recruiting effort perspective, I think Tesla has done that. And that's why they rank number 1 and 2 with Tesla and SpaceX in terms of getting engineers. I think they've solved for that. Like if you really want to do this amazing work, you go work at one of their places. I think they have to be careful of towing the line of exposing what they're doing and thinking they're just going to out innovate and outpace that, and letting others just completely, copy it and go forward. So they should be working on things. It sounds exciting because it is exciting. What could those things be? I do think that we're going to see different form factors of vehicles. One, two, I think while there's, they're working on Optimus, version 1 and 2 and what will be the final production version, I do think that there will be a need to miniaturize humanoids and doing them in different form factors. Because once you have AGI and you've got AI working in these manners, you're going to want it to be able to have access and do more things in your life that maybe a humanoid can't physically get to and do. So I think you're going to see that, Optimus will turn into a family of bots. And then on the auto side, there should be other form factor sizes and shapes that don't exist today.
And other kinds of technology like the HVAC and others. We had this fun question.
Yeah.
So he kept referring to C-3PO and R2-D2. So it's like, come on, there's going to be an R2-D2 version. We'll see whatever that form factor looks like. But let's finish off his clip here.
But the really ultra profound thing is full self-driving. Is unsupervised full self-driving. That's like the gigantic thing. And then Optimus having an autonomous, useful humanoid robot is an even bigger thing than full self-driving. But those are the two things that, like, if you were to look back in history from, fast forward like 20, 30 years or 50 years even, like what are the things that really were profound? It'll be unsupervised, a general solution to unsupervised full self-driving, and a humanoid robot that is truly useful. Even 100 years from now, they'll be like, whoa, those are big ones.
100 years from now, we're going to look back, bots and unsupervised full self-driving robotaxis. It's going to change the world, right? Because it's not just here's a product and you're going to buy it and it's a new consumer thing. It's like the whole city will be redesigned. The way society works is going to be redesigned. What humans do, it's going to be changed. Yeah,
I think that's the way that Elon...
Abundance. Yeah. He kept repeating the word abundance. Like he goes, it's a more likely chance, 50-50 chance, but he actually thinks it's going to be an abundant world. It's going to be a positive world.
I think that's the framework that Elon puts himself into, is what's going to, what does this world need for abundance? What does it need, to be multiplanetary and so forth? He puts himself into that framework. And say, if you look back 50 or 100 years from now and you look back on this point in time, like what were these major innovations that were needed? Just like if we look back 50 to 100 years ago in time here with the development of the semiconductor and the development of the combustion engine vehicle, what were those things that were needed to move society forward? I think that's the bar he sets himself and his companies to, and then he drives his team to enable that. And I think we're going to look back in the future and find that there wasn't one single leader or innovator that did more to drive that and enable that. Same thing goes for Jensen Huang. They're going to look back on what he did with NVIDIA and enabling, the age of the GPU to replace the CPU in these operations. And he's going to be looked back as one of those pioneers as well. So you're kind of seeing it real time. Sometimes it takes 10 to 20 years, 30 years or more for history to like look back and put it into proper context. But I think that will actually happen a lot faster.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Jeff. Listening to Elon, what a treat. He shared with us specifically to the retail investors, retail community. He spent an hour and he shared more info that he hasn't, he was, at first I thought he was kind of stressed at the very beginning. Then I felt that he loosened up, relaxed, had started having fun as the interview went on. Yeah. Any final thoughts on that interview?
No, it was a great interview. Props to Tesla owners of Silicon Valley, John and Kelvin, and that whole team for the event, and then just putting on this, amazing speakers, topping it off with Elon was a real treat. But I think Elon likes to speak to the retail investor and likes to speak to everybody. Everybody has access to that. That was democratized information. Everybody can take that information and do what they wish. And so it was exciting to see. You can tell he's excited, he's energized, he's motivated. While you see him fighting all these different battles, in the end, he wants to make these things he wants to, put the science in fiction and take the fiction part out.
And we're very, very close, like literally months, years, not just, not 5-10 years. We're here. Thank you so much, Jeff. Follow him on X at the Jeff Lutz. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
I've created a website that is the most comprehensive resource for the Tesla investor. Please check it out. Simply go to my website at herbertong.com.